Welcome to History Stories Dose, one story 10 parts, subscribe now.
Imagine risking your country's future, your oldest friendships, and the crown on your head, all because of one person. King Henry VIII possessed absolute authority over England. He was a man who lived his entire life without ever hearing the word no. Then he noticed Anne Boleyn. Anne didn't hold the highest rank at court, but years spent in French royal circles had given her a sharp intellect and a deep understanding of politics. Unlike many women in the English court, she was fiercely confident and had absolutely no problem speaking her mind directly to the king. Henry was captivated immediately, and as the ruling monarch, he assumed winning her affection would be a simple formality. But Anne refused to become his mistress. She told him that if he wanted her, she would have to be his queen. This demand created an immediate, glaring problem. Henry was already legally married to Queen Catherine of Aragon. To legally marry Anne, Henry needed to end his current marriage. And there was only one person in Europe with the authority to grant that annulment, the Pope. Henry pitched a theological technicality. Because Catherine had previously been married to Henry's late brother, Arthur, he argued their union had never been truly blessed by God. The king fully expected the Pope to stamp the paperwork and move on. Instead, the Pope flatly denied the request. The rejection had very little to do with religion. Queen Catherine happened to be the aunt of this man, Emperor Charles V. Charles ruled over a massive portion of Europe. If the Pope granted Henry's divorce, he risked triggering a continental war with his most powerful and dominant neighbor. Henry's personal life had slammed into a wall of European power politics, leaving him trapped in a legal and diplomatic stalemate. Months dragged into years. Henry wrote dozens of passionate letters to Anne and showered her with expensive gifts, trying to keep her on the hook. But as the Pope continued to stall, the king's patience dried up. This is when one of Henry's closest advisors, Thomas Cromwell, proposed an alternative solution. Cromwell asked a simple question. If Rome won't grant permission, why should England obey the Catholic Church at all? He suggested they reorganize the legal and spiritual framework of the country, sliding the king into the solitary top position, answering to no one on earth. This logic shifted the crisis from a personal dispute over a marriage to a direct challenge against the Pope's international jurisdiction. Henry made his choice. He officially bypassed Rome and declared himself the supreme authority in England. In a single, decisive stroke, he erased nearly 1,000 years of continuous Catholic authority over English monarchs. The domestic fallout was immediate. Loyal friends who refused to accept the new order became mortal enemies, and families were torn apart over their allegiances. For thousands of ordinary citizens, their daily lives and spiritual routines were permanently disrupted by a sudden religious shift mandated from the throne. The decision effectively overrode the laws governing English politics and faith, shifting the country onto an independent course. This monumental schism was the culmination of a king's private obsession colliding with the rigid power structures of Europe, a moment where a personal refusal to yield forced a national transformation.